I think you could have continued further because GIZ, you got the attitude already and the approach. Premier, dear ministers, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bouffier, you just said Frankfurt is also part of the federal state of Hesse, Eschborn as well, outside of Frankfurt. And maybe as GIZ representative, I may modestly say it is a place that has had a great impact on the world for more than 50 years. We've got two locations. The very center of everything is Eschborn. The second location is Bonn. But I do believe that it's very good to remind you what we as GIZ have been able to do and are able to do for the federal government. So when the topics were voted on, international was a term that hasn't been focused on too much. Maybe we can strengthen this a bit. GIZ is a institute, a company of the federal government working for the Ministry for Economic Collaboration. We've got 17,000 people working worldwide, most of them together with local supporters and staff, and we work in different areas that have already been mentioned in some of the addresses, and they have a lot to do with prevention, be it promotion of economic and work, food supply, health services, basic education, protection of the environment and the climate, setting up state and democratic institutions, but also promoting peace and security, a broad field, and reconstruction and tackling and working on civil conflicts. In our partner countries, the countries where we work, day in, day out, we see and hear that sustainable development, stability and peace are necessary, and peace is a requirement, a precondition. More than half of the collaboration countries of our work are characterized by violence in all of the territory or half of it, and very often, of course, they're affected by these conflicts and fragility. I passed the Willy Brandt-Platz when I came here, and I remembered what the former Federal Chancellor, Nobel Prize winner, said when he was the chairman of the now North-South Commission of the United Nations. He said, wherever there is starvation and poverty, peace cannot be lasting. And that's certainly one of the admonishing words that the G7 heads of government and states in Elmo should have on their agenda and do have on their agenda when they talk of international agents and economic development cooperation. Worldwide, say the statistics, 500,000 people die because of violence. However, not in the context of armed conflicts, as many might think, or as a consequence of terrorist activities. 90% die of consequences of other forms of violence, social violence being the main factor here. In relationships, in the family, the group of friends or neighborhoods, that type of violence is what it is. In the meantime, 58 countries have a rate of murder of more than 10 per 100,000 inhabitants a year. So almost 2/3 of violent deaths worldwide are concentrated in these 58 countries. In some of our countries or partner countries, murder rates are exorbitantly high. South Africa, the murder rate is at 31 people, fatalities per 100,000. So 49 is the number in Frankfurt per year. In some countries of Central America, it is at 40 per 100,000 inhabitants. And when we look at the murder rates and the statistics, and to take a closer look, it's horrifying. Guatemala, in January of this year alone, 488 people were killed. Or in a recent survey in South Africa, it became apparent that 1 out of 3 South Africans admitted to have raped at least one woman, and 1 out of 4 women reports to have become or have been the victim of a rape. When we look at these numbers, or the fact that there are 5,900 violent acts per year that are registered by the police in South Africa, and since 2004, there were alone 160,000 people in South Africa who've been murdered, then it is the post-conflict states more than anything else that need particular support in order to be able to set up a properly democratic system. We do invest a lot in these countries, but we do know that development cannot be bought. It's not the money that is given as support, but it is really the willingness of governments and parliaments to actually do these steps together to create these new systems. The influence of business and industry and the civil society are very important to look forward. Violence of any type and nature incurs major cost and impedes development processes. Cost, in inverted commas, is incurred in terms of human suffering, but also there are not just the individual cases, but also the society as a whole. People lose their trust in the state, their confidence. The public space is hardly used anymore. This has significant consequences when it comes to participation and the possibilities of participation in the public life and the economic life. In South Africa, more than 1/3 of those asked in a survey said that they actually avoid to use public spaces. When it's dark, only half of the population dares to go outside at all. There's a lack of security, there's a lot of violence, and these are main obstacles for further societal, economic, and political developments. The rapid urbanization, more inequality of the societies, and high youth unemployment are factors and dynamic developments that reinforce and strengthen this development. On behalf of the federal government, we support our partner countries to strengthen their security. Very often it is particularly important and a proviso that we actually teach them that there is some added value in a balance of power and a distribution of power. Setting up police forces and supporting legal structures, all this is very important. I was with the Minister of Justice in Rhineland-Palatinate, a partner country of Rwanda, and we know how difficult it is to make sure that there is peace and stability in this country 20 years after the genocide, providing for the youth in such a way that they have a future by getting a good education. And we do know that we need the support there of the ministries of the interior and the legal system. We know how difficult it is in many countries of the world to prevent violence against women and girls, be it Latin America, India, Pakistan. There are programs on secure cities. That's also where we work. Many of the programs mentioned so far will also be demonstrated and present themselves at this Congress, and we are looking forward to exchange views and ideas with you. We say peace and security are global goods. And at present in Europe, we see how much uncertainty reigns in the world and how many people have to leave their home countries. And we also see how lack of perspective and frustration gets young people to actually make themselves heard through violence. The severe problems, we know this, the severe problems are not to be solved at the individual level anymore. We need global perspectives for such solutions. Prevention of violence and violent conflicts requires coordination and the linkage of different preventive measures across the borders of sectors, but also across national borders. The German Crime Prevention Congress is an outstanding platform for us, for politicians and practitioners from different sectors and different levels of the state, a forum to meet, to exchange views and ideas, but also to develop new ideas together. We are very grateful to have this opportunity as GIZ to be part of this exchange because we need this platform and we need it urgently. I reminded you of the meeting of G7 ministers, heads of state here. They do also discuss violence. There are 3 other big international conferences this year, ahead of us, that is. There is one in Addis Ababa for development cooperation financing, and the money, of course, is necessary. With a great deal of euphoria, we are looking forward to the Millennium Summit. 15 years after the last summit, new goals will be adopted in New York, and we see this as a very encouraging step in view of more prevention instead of just coping with crisis and fragility. And at the end of the year, we've got the big climate conference in Paris, where we do know that violence and changes are also very often caused by the environment and the climate, and they could be prevented if we could repair this. Prevention is something that these three conferences have not yet focused on so much. They've kept talking of repair jobs, but this Prevention Congress, of course, is very important here to focus on prevention and make quite sure that the international community of states knows what we expect. So, Mr. Bouffier, I do hope that Eschborn will continue to be a fruitful contributor to these processes, because it's not just cost that comes in, but the dignity of human beings, and this is what our work needs to focus on. So thank you very much for allowing us to participate.